Well, we are here.
Boy, it's been a while, hasn't it?
May 2nd, so it's been 19 days. 19 days.
You're kidding me. It hasn't
It's
been
like
that
we
long.
went on summer hiatus, and it's not even summer.
Here we are,
Yes,
together
we are.
again. Joe Rayo.
And Joe Cioffi, welcome aboard. Tonight we are doing our YouTube show together here. And Joe, David Schwartz, who's on the chat board tonight, pointed out in the pre-show chat that in the last 48 hours, 51 tornadoes in the southern plains to the middle Mississippi Valley. We had record May snows today in the last 24 hours in eastern Colorado, Denver, Fort Collins, 3 inches in Denver, a foot and a half up in the mountains there. And we also had a subtropical storm, Andrea, which is gone now. It's just a remnant low. It's you got all these weird things happening. The tornadoes, the severe weather's in season. The snow not necessarily so, and the subtropical storm not necessarily so either.
But meanwhile, we're sitting pretty. We had a lovely day today, albeit it was a little bit on the windy side, gusts reaching to over 30 miles an hour at times. But hey, I'll take this as compared to the snow, the tornadoes, the subtropical storm. We're finally, for once, in the midst of all of this mayhem, we find ourselves with
a bit of a sweet spot.
Spot.
And when you've got a 987 low in West Kansas moving up into Nebraska and moving straight northward, somebody has to be in the opposite end of this. So the severe weather was such a big deal yesterday. It's a little tamer today, so I wanted to just kind of start with that. First off, this is what we have working with the Weather Service radar. Their radar wasn't even working well today.
Look how quiet it was across the country today.
But I do have, this is exactly, but here is the hourly mesoscale analysis from SPC. So it's 9:30 Eastern Time. If you're watching this, remember this is dated, so if you're watching this on a replay, get your the latest local weather information at weather.gov. One working tornado watch left, one severe thunderstorm watch. And I'm seeing a couple of the little red boxes. If we take the radar echoes off, we probably could see them better. There are, looks like there's at least one or two working tornado warnings, and the rest are severe thunderstorms. But that's a really wrapped up low for this time of year. And just to see pressures that deep is just very unusual.
A real stem winder, and. Again, a very comma-shaped look to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And speaking of severe weather, the Storm Prediction Centers has us in some potential, not just for day 3, which would be Thursday.
Right,
but they're also picking out for day 5. They have us.
Do you like how I had that?
Yes.
We didn't even practice this. I knew.
You knew.
So let's start with day 3, because this is for Thursday. And by the way, another round of severe weather firing up in the southern plains. It's been so busy there in the last 10 days. And now there's another round for the end of the week. But let's look at the northeast slight risk for Thursday, because I'm trying to kind of get a gauge of this. As far as, a lot of times when you see the slight risk early on, at least in Tornado Alley, when you see the slight risk early on, it oftentimes gets elevated to an enhanced risk or a moderate risk.
Right.
And yesterday we saw a rare high risk, first time in 2 years. Sometimes in the east they'll put it up early. A lot of times it does wind up getting enhanced, and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm trying to figure out for Thursday, because there are a couple of things that would suggest that the thunderstorm activity could be a little bit on the robust side. And then there are a few things that are saying, well, maybe not. First off, I got the dew point map up. And what's really interesting, Joe, if you watch, we can loop the dew points that are in the upper 60s and low 70s, and you can actually see that tropical air kind of forcing its way up through the Ohio Valley tomorrow, although we're going to be bone dry here. While we're bone dry, it's going to be humid in Ohio and Indiana and down into Kentucky. And then Thursday, that bone dry air really kind of forces its way, but it gets to about New York City and
You mean that very humid air, not the
yeah,
blowing
I'm sorry,
dry.
the humid air. I'm
Right.
sorry, I meant the humid air. Dew points that actually even reach 70 in parts of Pennsylvania. But we're kind of at this wall here. There's 50 dew points in Connecticut, Massachusetts, over Long Island. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that there's the isobars are south-southwest or even south for a while. So I'm wondering how far east that slight risk is going to get.
First of all, that very warm, muggy push tomorrow in the higher levels of the atmosphere, 20, 30,000 feet up, is likely to generate a swath of cirriform cloudiness, which will probably spill over from the Ohio Valley across Pennsylvania and may make it even as far east as our area. So even though tomorrow dew point temperatures will still be quite low,
Yeah,
I think
in fact,
the projection is for dew points in the upper 30s and lower 40s tomorrow. Even though that's down
low
here.
40s, yeah.
That's down here, but at 20 and 30,000 feet, that moisture is going to start sifting slowly eastward, up and over the top, and it's kind of like overrunning. But the only effect that we probably would see tomorrow, especially in the afternoon, are those big mare's tail type
Clouds.
cirriform clouds that'll be coming in from the west and southwest, and then it'll be interesting to see tomorrow night as that push gets even stronger into our vicinity. Probably we'll see a thickening layer of clouds, and then probably more cloud. I said more clouds than sun on Thursday.
That's what I did. I threw in the chance that
there might even be a shower
Thursday morning.
Thursday morning.
Was this warm boundary, this humid boundary shifts eastward. Might even be look at the NAM 3 actually has a tiny little thunderstorm there. Let's get a little closer. I mean this is Thursday morning on the
Right.
NAM 3.
Well, that's the warm front, probably.
Right.
That's the actual warm front.
So then that goes by, and then here
Then
comes
it's a quiet period. Much of Thursday, there may be nothing, but then later, Thursday and Thursday night, we'll have to watch for the possibility of strong to possibly severe thunderstorms.
This may also be a situation of timing and geography, because this is at 7 o'clock in the evening, and there's what looks like a pretty good line of storms there in eastern Pennsylvania and a few strong cells up in the Hudson Valley, up closer to I-90. But then after 8 o'clock, they just sort of die out. So, it might be once the daytime heating gets cut off, perhaps they may fall apart. So,
Right.
Western New York, Pennsylvania, maybe even into western New Jersey, and then up along 84 and north, much like we had yesterday, and then they just kind of fade away after that.
And they're talking. They, being the guys over in Norman, Oklahoma, at the Storm Prediction Center, are talking about the possibility that there may be a few supercells that may generate damaging winds, and maybe even a tornado or two. We'll have to see what they're considering.
Was that their discussion for here? Because I didn't get a chance to read it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump to the weekend. What did you think about the weekend? I thought initially, my initial view on this earlier in the week was that, we got this front for Thursday, so I thought maybe we'd get a few showers, or we might do the same thing all over again Saturday night. But the daytime Friday's fine. Friday could be like today to some degree.
Except that it'll be probably a little bit milder.
And a little less wind.
And maybe
Slightly less wind.
Well, look at that.
The gradient's a little tight. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So Saturday, I thought the day side Saturday should be okay, and then Saturday night, maybe a shower or thunderstorm with that cold front. And then the dilemma for the rest of the holiday weekend was the remaining frontal boundary. Where does it set up, and is it going to be active? Are we going to get into an onshore flow? I kind of thought that the answer to that would be no, that we probably won't get into an onshore flow, and that Sunday may be okay. I'm not seeing it being picture perfect, but it might be okay. And now the GFS late today, we'll see if this is true. It's kind of speeding up the front for Monday, where the bulk of it goes by to our north, and that we just wind up being dry and on the seasonal side.
Right.
So overall, my view was that that the weekend would be okay, and much of the time it wouldn't be raining.
I said that the weekend would be pretty good, that the time to watch would be, as you just alluded to, Saturday night, and maybe spilling over into early Sunday morning showers, and maybe a few thunderstorms. Now that day 5 is for Saturday. The severe threat that is within our
Well, that would be with this front.
right.
Okay.
So that's what they're talking about. So I said, well, maybe a gusty thunderstorm then on Saturday night, and then Sunday looks like I have it getting rather warm. I had temperatures soaring into the lower 80s for Sunday.
Well, what's going to stop it?
Right, and they were cooling off some for Monday and Tuesday. And I don't know about you, it's always seemed to me like of the 3 summer holidays, even though this is not really officially summer yet, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, that Memorial Day, more often than not, seems to have, we trip over something.
It's always the one that has the most problems. It's too much into the springtime.
Right.
Now, I just want to review with everybody, with just a quick look at the long range, and then just jump a couple of minutes on the chat to take any questions. But this has been the problem for a while, is this unrelenting Pacific jet. It's that fire hose again.
Right.
So we've been getting these really very deep troughs coming into the western part of the U.S. This is the one for later this. This is for Tuesday night, which is where we are now. Okay, so this one is dumbbelling around a second trough that's dropping down into the southwest. So that's our system for Thursday night, Friday. You still have this trough in the west, but you got a ridge in the east. Pieces of that are going to try to move eastward. You got the northern part of the jet getting involved over the weekend. Flat ridge in the south, but as far as the Pacific is concerned, it looks like at least the fire hose look might be taking a bit of a break. And even though as we go into next week and now we're almost into June, we're still seeing systems coming in off the Pacific, but we're not seeing that really deep trough that was present there. So I'm wondering what that's going to mean for us in the longer haul once we get past Memorial Day. I mean, here's the look for the middle of next week. We've got this wrapped up upper low sitting in Hudson Bay. Another cold front coming down from the north, perhaps. I'm just wondering whether at some point are we going to deal with another one of these stretches again where we get into the onshore flow and a northeast wind and a couple of days where it doesn't get out of the 50s.
Yeah.
I sure hope not.
I don't think anybody wants to see that. We've had certainly more than our fair share. Whereas April was like 2 to 3 degrees above normal. What are we running so far in May?
All right. Well, I'll give it a quick check. Hang on one second. All right. So, la da 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 da.
By the way, he won again tonight.
Was that a shocker? How much money is he up to?
1.75 million, I think. This was, I think, it was 24th consecutive day of winning. And I knew from the start. Sometimes you get a feeling with the opponents.
He's talking about Jeopardy, by the way.
Well, if they don't know by now what we're talking about. You watch at the very beginning and you can see whether or not he's going to be challenged or he's going to face a challenge. And tonight I just had a feeling right from the start that the 2 people he was up against were
not happening.
No.
Okay, so for May, I just pulled up Central Park. I'm just going to do this really, really fast. So +1, -5, -2, -6, -3, -2, +2, -1, +3, +5, -5, -22, -36, -41, -40, -35, -32, -27, minus, not counting today, -15. So -15, 20 days through, less than a degree below normal for the whole month.
Still below normal, though.
Right, and when you look at the temperatures from the 12th to the 12th and 13th and 14th, where the anomalies in New York City were -10, -17, and -14. High of 59, 43, 48, 42, 52, 44. Those were the high lows for those 3 days. And yet, we've had a number. It's amazing how the perception is that the spring has been wet, but that it's been cold, and yet when you average it out between April and May, it's working out close to normal.
Right. But you get 3 or 4 days stretch when you have temperatures in the 40s and low 50s, and that'll color your perception very significantly.
Ruthless Goat, by the way, is in the Front Range of Colorado, and he messaged me this morning about the snow and the fact that every day out in coat and gloves. By the way, Denver, I think, did not get above 40 today, which would be the lowest high, record lowest high. The record goes back to 1880. Just crazy.
Don't worry, they'll be in the 80s next week.
Yes. Brian Ford wants to know, the dew point levels alone produce more in the way of severe weather. Just the contrast in the dew point levels could produce more in the way of severe weather. I guess what I'm thinking about, Ryan, is that if there's a south wind along the coast, that might be a bit of a marine layer that winds up happening. But there's a big difference between a south wind and a southwest wind, so the inland areas are not going to have that issue. I'm just not I'm not sure yet. I want to just we'll give it till tomorrow to see. And yeah, Jason Barry points out, if we get dew points into the 60s compared to how bow dry it's been, it's going to feel pretty swampy.
Right. Even in the 50s. I mean, you get a couple of days where dew points are in like the upper 30s. And then all of a sudden it jumps up into the mid and upper 50s. All of a sudden you say, boy, it got humid all of a sudden. Whereas in a normal scenario, 50 dew points in the temperatures and dew points in the 50s, that's fine. That's good.
Steve LaPointe says the Mets are winning in the 8th, but Familia is pitching.
Uh-oh.
Ethan Kerr, 36 tornado reports today and counting, compared to 26 from yesterday.
Now, do we call this a super outbreak like they did back in 1974? Or is this just a
I don't know what
anomalous, what the terminology would be.
I don't know what the criteria is for what they would consider a super outbreak.
I do know that when you went on the storm prediction site late last night and through the day today, they didn't have just red, they had like a fuchsia color to try to attract your attention, to alert you to the fact that, hey, if you're anywhere in this zone, the Oklahoma, that area, you're in for trouble today.
Izzy D wants your thoughts on the thunderstorms. Now, he's in Lakewood, New Jersey, as far as the timing and strength with regards to Thursday.
I would think that that we're going to have a threat from later in the day, Thursday into Thursday evening. You might get the idea from what the Storm Prediction Center was suggesting that this might carry over into Thursday night. But I think it's going to be late Thursday into the early part of Thursday night that we'll have it shot at some. And of course, the further inland, like Lakewood, is not at the coast, but might be close enough to the coast where any really big storms might actually begin weakening by the time they reach you. But it'll make for an interesting day on Thursday in the afternoon and evening.
Johnny Quest, that front over on Saturday, Sunday is going to stall out probably near you. I just don't know how active it's going to be. It doesn't look like there's any kind of wave being generated on it. So while there might be some showers, I'm not overly concerned at this point that it would be a continuous rain. And yes, one of the other things, Izzy D, about this 5-year, we talked about that apparently there's a sort of broad 5 or 6 year thunderstorm cycle over Long Island. And, I've mentioned the fact that over the last number of years, probably the last 4 or 5 years, the amount of thunderstorm activity that I've seen has been utterly minimal compared to what I've seen during other periods. But we've already actually had a few out my way. So perhaps
we're on the upswing of the
perhaps
cycle.
we're on the last year in general for the area there was a general uptick in thunderstorm activity, and I think so far this year we've compared to where we are on the calendar, we've actually seen a few more than a few events in the last month or so with regards to thunderstorms. So maybe that uptick is area wide and is going to continue. As we move along.
Now, Ruthless Goat says 148 tornadoes. That was the super outbreak in 74. That's 3 times what we've just gone through. So that indeed is.
So
a
Ethan
super
Kerr points out the only super outbreaks, what are considered super outbreaks, 74 and 2011. They're only from massive outbreaks with hundreds of tornadoes and many violent ones, but I don't know the exact criteria. I think that would make sense. David Schwartz is going to Citi Field Friday night.
Well, good. Oh, I,
Nice.
I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, Friday and Friday night are fine, and even through the daytime Saturday.
No problem on Friday night.
Just AAA says the rotation of the Earth makes his day. Okay, that's good. Go ahead, finish up what you were saying about David with City Field.
Well, it's no problem from a weather standpoint. Now, as far as the actual team on the field, that's another problem, which we may want to get into at another time. I said to somebody the other day, I said, how is it that the Yankees, everything that the Yankees touch turns to gold, and everything that the Mets touch turns to fertilizer? I don't understand that.
You're using the kinder word.
Yes, exactly.
The outbreak, May 31st, 1985 in Pennsylvania, that was the only time high risk was used in Pennsylvania. Did we ever see a high risk here?
I only can remember moderate risks. And now you're going back to the old criteria.
Right.
It's
hard to know because the criteria has changed. So what was high risk today might have been moderate risk.
Moderate risk or enhanced or whatever. I wish they didn't do it. I wish they'd stay with the KISS system, which is keep it simple, sweetie. Slight, moderate, severe. Now there's so many new criteria, I have no clue anymore.
The chance of 3 consecutive days being rain-free through Memorial Day. I'll answer. My view on that, Steve, is that I think there's a really good chance that the day sides of the three days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the daytime periods in those 3 days, could wind up very well being dry.
Right.
And that the risk for showers would be maybe Saturday night and
maybe spilling over to early Sunday.
Yeah. Or depending on the timing of the front for Monday.
So you're asking this question on a Tuesday for an event that for a stretch that's going to be happening what? It's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They want to do Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you're talking about 4, 5, and 6 days out, and lots can change. You're trying to narrow it down to a specific time frame. Come back on Friday or Thursday or whatever. We'll have a much better idea.
Mr. Thomas Kellogg, he's talking about for the upper Hudson Valley, so I'm guessing you're talking about north of I-90. Could that wind up being an enhanced risk? I don't know. It's hard to see. Do the dew points get that high up there? Let me look really fast. I think that's best to be evaluated tomorrow, but just on a quick view today, I'm just looking here. I mean, the dew points way up in upstate New York, they do get up into near 60, and even some lower 60s. I mean, is that enough? I don't know what I didn't get a good chance to take a look at what's going on at all the other levels of the atmosphere. Looking at the 500 millibar with all these lovely little jet streaks that it likes to show. I'm just kind of doing this really fast. I mean, there are some jet streaks that are being indicated here. That's SPC's job. So I mean, I don't know. Slight risk, I think, would be enough to indicate that there's at least a chance that there could be some fairly strong storms. Trish and Lou, as of now, would the yellow 15% risk on Friday in Wisconsin be a slight risk or enhanced? That would be slight risk. If you're talking about on the
30,
15% is slight risk and 30% is moderate risk. And on that day 4, that's a 15% risk that you're showing there on SPC's day 4 through 8. So 15% is slight risk, 30% is moderate.
They seem to be sticking their neck out a little bit more than they did, let's say, even just a few months ago or a year ago. Because about a year ago, I think that they, for example, for us, the day 5 outlook, they probably would have said a year ago not enough data for us to make a judgment call. But now I think they're beginning to get a little bit more confident in
well, it's also I've always the view of the idea that the trend is your friend. The thunderstorms seem to be outperforming in a lot of these weather systems, be right. In Southern Plains or in the Mississippi Valley tonight, or what we've seen in the last week to 10 days. So I guess you kind of go with the flow. It seems like they want to outperform.
Yeah, well, and last year even we had mentioned for a while that for whatever reason they were always playing catch up. I think you alluded to that at the beginning of our chat tonight, that something that might appear to be slight to them. Tomorrow night it might appear more like
Right.
enhanced or whatever. They keep going up on the scale as we get closer and closer to the event. So that may
Okay, last one, Ethan Kurt. Chances of thunderstorms near Toms River Thursday. I think it all depends on the wind direction Thursday. If it's more of a south wind, if there's more of the south wind and you get that marine layer that kind of hugs the Jersey Shore east of the Parkway, then I would say that it probably favors those thunderstorms weakening as they approach you. But if it's more displaced further east, if you've got more of a southwest wind and the south wind stays on the beaches or out further to the east, then you might have a better shot. Lisa Nuevas, beautiful day tomorrow, sunshine on Long Island, maybe some high clouds coming in during the afternoon, but it should be almost just as nice as today with less wind.
she was cooking, that's why.
By the way, this storm, the plains storm, everything that's been going on in the plains, big impact on farmers in Nebraska. They've lost almost 1 million head of young cattle.
Wow.
Plus impact on crops. I mean, this is all going to play out in the next couple of months at the grocery store when you're purchasing meat or grains or
Do
whatever.
they still issue stockman's advisories? I remember back in the day they used to do that for farmers.
I
and
don't
other
know, or
things.
maybe they call it something else.
Yeah.
But they probably call it
But it's
something else.
kind of weird to have this kind of situation this late in the season. My goodness, we passed the midpoint of spring on the 5th of May. So
I know, it's crazy. All right, folks, get closer to the shot. It's half your head's out. Okay, we got to go because we're coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks for being here. My Facebook page is not repaired. The Joe and Joe Show will be back on here tomorrow night. So have a good night. Good night,
too.
everybody.
Bye.